What's up everybody, it's CJ and I'm back with another Barnacle Bay renovation video, and today we're going to be tackling the Treasure Terrace. This is Alec Trebo's house, and y'all, I had my work cut out for me today. So for one, Alec didn't even have that much money when I started the renovation. I had to go in and delete a bunch of stuff. That is like what I think I spent the majority of the first part of the video doing, deleting stuff and then also trying to make his house a lot smaller because his house is just really big and boxy. It's not the worst house I've ever seen before. I've definitely seen worse. It's just a little bit too big and boxy, and the roof, in my opinion, is just too high. So I was like, we need to just make everything a little bit smaller. Usually, if you're trying to build something and it doesn't look good, try making it smaller. Even if you still don't like it, smaller sometimes is better, especially when it comes to The Sims, because I know, like, for me, I sometimes struggle to furnish really big rooms in the game, because it's kind of like, okay, you put all the things that you need. Like, for example, if you have a really big, I don't know, foyer or something, or like a really big bedroom, it's like, okay, you put the bed, you put maybe a desk or a couch, but then if you have too much space, it's like, what do I put in here, you know? Like, I just try to find things to put. So for this house, I'm like, let's just make it smaller, and it'll be a lot easier to furnish and everything a little bit more cohesive. I will say, I'm not really a fan of the roofing on this one. I mean, I don't think it's horrible, but like when it comes to these renovations, I've said this before, but I'll say it again in case this is your first time seeing. When it comes to a lot of these renovations, I try not to bulldoze the house and start from scratch. I have nothing against that when people do it. I just think it's fun if I just use what's given to me and I try to just work off of it. So I was like, okay, we'll just keep the general shape of the house. Like, it is boxy, but I did put like a little bump out just to kind of give it some dimension. You can have some more interesting roofing, and then I did like the idea of the gabled roof that comes off of the main roof. So I kind of have like a little makeshift porch area for the house. It's not bad. I don't know, like, I feel like it's one of those things where the longer I looked at it, the more I liked it, but at first I just definitely didn't like it. Another thing that I really struggled with was the wallpaper on the outside. I did not know what to do, y'all. I was like gonna do brick, I was gonna do paneling, I was gonna do stone, but then I was like, why don't we just kind of settle for like regular siding? You know, sometimes you don't really have to complicate things. So I was like, we'll just go for some really nice white siding. We'll use some nice plants to kind of just have some nice contrast. And another thing that I was struggling with was trying to figure out what fence to use, because like once I was able to delete a bunch of stuff that we just didn't need, we had a lot of money, y'all. I'm talking like maybe 40,000 something simoleons. So the budget was not a problem this time around. Even at the end of the video, I can't remember the exact number, but I still had like at least 12,000 simoleons, I want to say. So Alec is balling, okay? He's balling, which is also kind of funny because like if you don't know, he's like a pirate. I mean, he's dressed like a pirate, but he's a pirate. And it says in his household description that essentially he knows that there's some treasure buried somewhere in Barnacle Bay and he wants to find it. I think that's like an interesting concept for a household, because especially one with pirates, right? You know, like you have a pirate who is just wanting to, like, I like to imagine that maybe he moved here from somewhere and he's like, okay, I'm gonna just live here long enough to find where the treasure is, and then once I find it, I'm gonna go. But in the meantime, he lives here. And funny enough, you'll see on the inside of his house, he kind of has like a museum of sorts. I guess all the things that he has stolen over the years and just took, he has displayed in his house like a museum. And I think that's also an interesting idea, especially for like an early Sims 3 household, because like when they built this world, they didn't really have much to really work with outside of the base game and the few objects that came with Barnacle Bay. So I think it was kind of cool that they were able to kind of just make something up like that. So we have a pirate who wants to find the treasure in the world, and he also displays all the stuff that he's already gotten. So I think that's kind of cool. Now, you'll see on the left side of the lot, there's a lot of like sculptures and stuff. That's the stuff that he has displayed in his house. Now, I wanted to keep it, especially for the inside, because y'all know a lot of the times I delete that stuff and I just replace it with stuff that's better, in my opinion. But I thought it would be kind of cool if I used some of the things that he already stole and we just put them back in the house. Just maybe organize it a little bit better. One thing that I did unfortunately have to delete, well, not really delete it, but I didn't keep it on the pedestal. It was this little flamingo thing that he had. I kept it outside and I placed another flamingo beside it, but I didn't keep it on the pedestal because like I just didn't really have any room on the inside of the house, because I did make it smaller and I kind of ran out of space. So I did at least keep the flamingo, but it's not, you know, like on a fancy display basically. But everything else I did find space for in the house. So as you can see right now, everything is starting to come together on the outside. I really was just trying to recolor everything and just have everything match. Also, he has 2 parking spaces in the front yard, so I was like, okay, we'll just keep them. and I gave him like a little driveway basically. And then since we have a porch now, I was like, why don't we just include a couple of chairs outside? I later go back and add a rug just to kind of have some more stuff out there. But now we're moving on to the inside. I tried to do a little bit of the floor plan off camera just so I could kind of figure out where I wanted things to go. So you'll see that I kind of used the bump out where the bathroom is as a starting point, and then I was able to just draw a wall. I made his bedroom a little bit smaller, and then he'll have this like little walk-through hallway space. So like when you first come in, you'll see that there's basically all the things that he's acquired, his little private museum, and then you'll have like a hallway that can lead into the bathroom. There's a home office, and then it'll be his bedroom. And then on the left side of the house, there's another bathroom, and then his kitchen, and then in the back of the house is the living room. So that's kind of the layout. This house could technically be, I guess, if you want it to be like 2 bedrooms, you would just have to replace an archway with the door. But since he basically just lives there by himself, I was like, we'll just do it a 1 bedroom, and he'll just have space for stuff, you know? So as you can see, we're starting on in the museum. So I thought it would be kind of cool if I included pedestals, or at least like a platform or something for the pedestals. This way it sits off of the ground. It makes it look more fancy, in my opinion. And I'm also like trying to place everything back, not quite where I found it, but just trying to like place it down so it can kind of look nice. And then I went in, and Barnacle Bay comes with this rope. I think it's supposed to be used for like docks and stuff, but I quite like it for like this museum atmosphere. So I put some of those on the platforms, and then I'm also having some come from the wall because like he has like bigger display pieces like a clock, he has like a sculpture. So I was like, we'll just have that come off of the wall. I had a lot of fun, I'm not gonna lie, y'all, going through the catalog and just trying to find things that would kind of make sense for a, you know, for this kind of like museum thing. So I like to think that he has a lot of like artwork from other places, you know, and I try to include as much piratey stuff as I could, you know, like maybe part of this is just like old pirate stuff that he found from like an old ship or something. So you'll see that we have a cannon. I have the steering wheel wall sculpture. I found the pirate flag eventually because I was looking for it at first, but I couldn't find it. And then eventually I did find it. So you'll see later that I placed it back down. But I do think that this entryway looked really cool. And I gotta say, y'all, I know I always do say it, but I really like the way this house turned out. I think my favorite room would be the home office. You'll see that later on in the video, but I want to say that's my favorite room in the entire house. It just looks so cozy to me. Yo, another thing that I really wanted to do was I wanted to use this circular mirror. I was going to put it in the room with all the other artifacts, but I couldn't really find a good wall for it. I was like, okay, I guess we could just use it in this bathroom right here. So the one thing I don't like about this bathroom is that I prefer for the mirrors to be above the counter space, but I had windows right there, so that wasn't really gonna work. And then I thought about maybe removing one of the windows, but then I was like, that's not gonna look good from the outside of the house. So I just moved the mirror on one of the walls. Maybe it's just more decorative than anything else, I would say. And then since this bathroom is kind of big, I drew a wall. Sometimes you'll see me do this in bathrooms. I'll just draw a little bump out, and then I'll just recolor the inside of it to be completely black. That way it won't be as noticeable, because I feel like sometimes when you have the walls half down, you can kind of just see the wallpaper behind it and it just doesn't look the best. So I sometimes will just recolor that inside to just be completely black. Same thing with the floor. And even though you can still see it, it's just to me not as noticeable, you know? But now we move on to the kitchen, and I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I quite like the kitchen too. So the kitchen has this hieroglyphic wallpaper, and I quite liked it. And I was like, you know what? He would probably have something like this in his house anyway. So why don't we just kind of take it and we just kind of like tweak it a little bit. So instead of it being like a golden-ish color, I kind of brought it back to be like a beige kind of color. And then I swapped the color of the floor a little bit too. And I'm using some more of these Ambitions countertops. And then I was like, well, since he's really the only sim that lives here, instead of giving him like a big grandiose table, I'll give him a couple of countertops with bar stools so he can still sit and eat in the kitchen. But for the most part, the cabinets are like a wraparound. And then now I'm trying to put a couple of these overhead cabinets above the counters. I just thought that these kind of helped make the kitchen feel a little bit more filled in. I didn't really want to use a whole lot of them, so we just have a couple this time around. I also gave him a microwave, and then I found this little pirate ship object, so I was like, why don't I just kind of like put that somewhere? I did have to make room for the stove and the fridge because I low-key almost forgot about them. But the kitchen is not like the biggest room in the house, but it has everything that he needs, especially like for one sim that lives here by himself. I think it's just kind of cozy. I like the color scheme. It's kind of simple, but I don't know. I think the wallpaper really pulls everything together in my opinion. All right, so now we move on to the living room. Now I kind of struggled with the living room, I'm not gonna lie. Because at first I was like, well, maybe I don't need to have one, but then I was like, no, give him a living room, CJ. Like, maybe he wants to just chill. So I included a little space in the back of the house for a living room. I'm using the Ambitions seating, and then I paired them up with a couple of the chairs, I believe from the Town Life stuff pack. Sometimes I like to pair those chairs with these chairs. I just like them, and I'll recolor it so it can match. And then I wanted to use some stuff from Barnacle Bay, so I found that little like clam seashell like flower display. So I was like, maybe we can like use that. And I kind of didn't realize at first that I didn't have the door for his bedroom on the living room wall. It was in the hallway. So I was able later on to add more stuff and more clutter in here. So you'll see that I'm including a fireplace because the original house did have a fireplace. So I was like, maybe we can bring a fireplace back. There's like these nautical knots that are in a display, and I was like, oh, why don't I use some of those? I'm using this bookshelf from the Generations pack as well. The rug is from Base Game, the TV is from Late Night, and then I also found like a barrel object, which I do believe comes with Barnacle Bay. So I put a barrel. There's also like the swordfish wall hanging sculpture thing from Island Paradise. I was like, we'll just put one of those hanging up from the wall. I kind of feel like this is more like his like chill spot, you know what I'm saying? I also found an award picture, and I feel like knowing him, he probably would have got an award from somewhere, or he probably like found a picture online and he probably just like photoshopped his face to make it look like he won an award or something. Like, I feel like Alec is a piece of work. That's just the kind of vibe I get from him. Funny enough, apparently he's also romantically involved with both of the Caliente sisters. Like, y'all, this man is all over the place. And also too, he's with Juliet Verona in this world, so like homeboy is just a player, okay? Like, this man got a lot going on. But as you can see, the living room is almost done. I didn't want to include a life preserve in here as well. I also included a plant from, I think that's the Bayside set, I want to say. And then I also wanted to use that Seasons painting in here because I liked using it. So I was like, we'll just put it on one of the walls. This seashell display thing, I ended up putting it in his bedroom because I wanted to use it, but I didn't know where I wanted to use it. So I just kind of put it in his bedroom. All right, so speaking of the bedroom, that is where we're going to go next. Now for his bedroom, I like this flooring. It was kind of funky. So I did like tweak the colors, but I kept it. I thought it was kind of nice. And I gave one of the designs a slight blue color, so it kind of like fit in with the color scheme. Alec's favorite color is aqua, but I didn't really want to do like a light blue kind of thing, so I kind of went with something a little bit more darker and washed out. So you'll see that we have blue wallpaper, the little blue accents in the floor. I kept his original bed because I don't ever use this one. It's one of the ones from Base Game. And I was like, you know what, why don't we just use it? We'll recolor it. He also had this gnome in his house originally. And I was like, you know what, we'll just keep that gnome around. I included it in his bedroom. The end tables that I use are also going to be from Base Game. And then I like to imagine that he kind of like travels a lot, obviously, you know, because he's a pirate. So there's like this little travel trunk object in the game. So I put one of those at the foot of his bed. Maybe he keeps it nearby in case he has to like go on an adventure or something like that. The standing mirror in his room is also going to be from the Pets pack. I gave him like a little love seat from Base Game in here, and I just gotta say I love the design of the curtains. I kind of went with that like funky older looking design, and I also used it on the rug for the outline, and I just really think it looked kind of older but in a good way. And then next up, I quickly redid his bathroom. I went with a blue and like silvery gray kind of color scheme. I wanted it to look different from the other bathrooms, and I feel like if anything, he's probably using this bathroom more than the other bathroom, but it's just like a little bathroom in the hallway. And then last but not least, we move on to his home office. And I gotta say, y'all, I love this office. I just think it looks so cool. I wanted to give him a space where he could just scheme, okay, and do research. Because like I said earlier, he knows that there's some treasure buried somewhere in Barnacle Bay, but he wants to find it. And I feel like he's probably like went around the island and like has mapped out like, you know, where things are. And I feel like he's trying to triangulate where the treasure could be. So luckily we have these like, I guess they're like ancient schematics or like old maps objects in the game. So I put a couple of those on the wall. There's also this like board that comes with ambitions, and it has like the string, you know, like for investigations and stuff. So I put one of those in his office as well, because I feel like he's like, okay, maybe this person might know something. If I ask them, but don't make it too obvious, maybe I could find something out. Homie is really just trying to find what this treasure is. So I was like, let's just give him a place where he can just do his thing. So I gave him some of these really big bookshelves. I also included an aquarium in here as well. I have a little globe beside his desk. I included one of the plants from Roaring Heights, which if you didn't know, you can actually recolor that plant and the leaves. So I included one of those by the couch in here. For the longest time, I was trying to find this treasure chest object, and I couldn't find it until the very end of the video. So I put it in his bedroom because, you know, he's a pirate. He needs to have a treasure chest, you know? But in the end, y'all, that's basically everything for the entire video. If you did enjoy it, please be sure to leave a like, comment something down below. Follow me over on Twitch where I stream a lot more of The Sims, and I'll leave a link to this build if you want to download it. But anyway, y'all, that's all that I have for this one. I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye! Thanks for watching!